Hello, I am Chris Swearingin, and this is Computer Magazine. Let's get the digital mashup started for today, Wednesday, March 1st, 2017. Well, we've got a lot going on today. IBM gets a patent on out-of-office email messages in 2017. Stuffed toys leak millions of voice recordings from kids and parents. FCC rolls back net neutrality, ISP transparency rules, and the price of lab-grown burger falls from $325,000 to $11.36. So we'll be having that artificial meat sooner than we thought. We also have the picture of the day, the question of the day, the video of the day, and more, so stay tuned. Well, we've got a lot going on today. This is from Ars Technica. IBM gets a patent on out-of-office email messages in 2017. You got to be kidding me. Is IBM trying to be a patent troll here? Let's find out. The Electronic Frontier Foundation is bringing light to what it calls a stupefyingly mundane patent on email technology given not to a patent troll hiding in a small office, but to one of the world's largest technology corporations. IBM lawyers wrangled with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for years over their bizarre and alarming alternative history in which IBM invented out-of-office email in 2010. U.S. patent number 9,547,842, out-of-office electronic mail messaging system, quote unquote, was filed in 2010 and granted about 6 weeks ago. Do I want to read the rest of this? You got to be kidding me. Okay, let's read it. The invention represented in the 842 patent is starkly at odds with the real history of technology. Accessible in this case via basic Google search. EFF lawyer Daniel Nazer, who wrote about the 842 patent in this month's Stupid Patent of the Month blog post, points to an article on Microsoft publicity page that talks about quirky out-of-office email culture dating back in the 1980s when Microsoft marketed Xenix email system, the predecessor to today's Exchange server. IBM offers one feature that's even arguably not decades old, the ability to notify those writing to the out-of-office user some days before the set vacation dates begin. This feature, similar to sending a postcard, not from a vacation, but to let someone know you will go on vacation, is a trivial change to existing systems, Nazer points out. But patent lawyers have long been able to add trivial features to well-known technology in order to get software patent grants. Yeah, it's people always trying to stifle technology with patents. Yeah, but of course, there's an argument to be made about intellectual property, so it's always a balancing act. Nazer goes on to identify some major mistakes made during the examination process. The examiner never considered whether the software claims were eligible after the Supreme Court's Alice versus CLS Bank decision, which came in 2014. And in Nazer's view, the office did an abysmal job, quote unquote, of looking at the prior art. The examiner considered only patents and patent application, notes Nazer. The office never considered any of the many existing real-world systems that predated IBM's application. Today, IBM is one of the company's pushing Congress to roll back Alice and allow more types of software patents. If they succeed, perhaps IBM can finally get a patent on shorter meetings, quote unquote, writes Nazer, referring to an actual IBM patent application that was rejected as overly abstract. And the link will be in the show notes on the on this story. So very interesting. Yeah, it's an ongoing thing for decades now, balancing intellectual property rights while not stifling innovation. So just imagine if internet technology, well, of course you remember Microsoft with their Microsoft network back in the 90s. They really didn't want to give in the early 90s to the internet, that's for sure. They wanted to own it. They wanted to own the whole thing. And just imagine where we would be with Microsoft owning it all and no Google, no innovation. Oh, it would be bad. So in this next story, CNN reported that stuffed toys leak millions of voice recordings from kids and parents. Recorded messages spoke to teddy bears could pose privacy risks for children. A security vulnerability allowed anyone to view personal information, photos, and recordings of children's voices from Cloud Pets toys. And at one point, some people tried to hold all of that information for ransom. According to a report compiled by security researcher Troy Hunt, over 820,000 user accounts were exposed. That includes 2.2 million voice recordings. I suspect one of the things that will shock people is that they probably didn't think through the fact that when you connect the teddy bear, your kids' voices are sitting on an Amazon server, Hunt said. Like other toys that connect to the internet, Cloud Pets stores all that data in the cloud, not on your smartphone itself. The toys launched in 2015 and include stuffed bears, dogs, cats, and rabbits. But as Hunt and other investigators found, kids' information was stored in an insecure database that didn't require authentication to access it. As Hunt explained to CNN Tech, it takes one mistake to expose this data. The error on the database was a bit like not having a pin on your smartphone. The database was indexed by Shodan, which is a search engine for finding insecure devices connected to the internet. You can use it to see if popular devices like toys are leaking data. You can also use it to take advantage of insecure systems. Yeah, if you don't know about the Shodan search engine, it's kind of well, you wouldn't really say, I guess it's part of the dark web, but anyway, it is a hacking website that you can basically do a search for exposed internet ports for cameras and just routers. You can limit your search to search the internet for specific strings or specific ports that are open, or just email servers that you can get in on port 80 or port 25. So anyway, it's really it should be used by people who manage systems to check their own devices and make sure they're not listed. Anyway, let's continue with the article. According to Hunt, that's what happened. Someone's deleted the data and posted a ransom note. Cloud Pets would have to give the bad actors Bitcoin in order to get its data back. Instead, Cloud Pets likely restored the data from backup. The data is no longer publicly accessible, but Cloud Pets has not informed users of the leak, and as far as researchers know, the passwords are still active. This could be a violation of the law in California. The governor requires companies to notify users if their information was exposed online. Cloud Pets and its maker Spiral Toys are based in California. It's not the first security debacle for internet-connected toys. Hunt also discovered a flaw in VTech gadgets that leaked data on millions of parents and kids, and Germany recently told parents to trash Kayla dolls over hacking potential. Concerned users tipped off Hunt to the Cloud Pets leak after their emails to the company went unreturned. Hunt worked with reporter Lorenzo Franceschi Picciarella. Okay, well, you can read it. Of the tech site Motherboard to try and contact Cloud Pets to report the issue, but was unsuccessful. A CNN Tech email to Cloud Pets was returned as undeliverable. It's not a good sign. Spiral Toys sent CNN Tech a statement addressing a story about the leak reported by Franceschi. I'm not saying the rest of that name. The company said no messages or images were compromised. Hunt said parents should change their passwords if they reuse the Cloud Pets password anywhere else. However, you shouldn't reuse passwords. Here are some security tips to help keep you safe online. Normally, I would say get in touch with the company involved, but Cloud Pets is non-responsive, Hunt said. I almost think the advice here is to get in touch with local regulators and make a complaint about this. Yeah, you know, we are just at the beginning of all this. The IoT Internet of Things is just starting. People are hacking into light bulbs and everything else already, and toys, everything that's going to be connected to the cloud, and the through IPv6, all the endless IPs that will be assigned to every conceivable device connected to the internet: refrigerators, toasters, light bulbs, and all running some minimal firmware or operating system that will be hackable and exposed. So, frankly, we are just at the very beginning of hearing about this kind of thing. I suggest toys, things like this, obviously, always think about whether you need to connect something to the cloud before you do. That's the best advice. Yeah, because of course there's password security, string, not reusing passwords and all this, but don't even go there. Of course, I can't speak for every situation, but like in this case, what was the need to connect these pets to the cloud? I don't know. I'd have to look into it more if there was some major advantage, but I'm sure it was something with kids' data being kept on their servers and shared amongst their pets. Who knows? But anyway, this is the result. So, our picture of the day comes from Kelly Sanderson of San Francisco, California. And it says, technology provides us with the means to better ourselves by granting us instant access to the collective knowledge of the world. You use it to play games. Yeah, that's kind of been true since the dawn of computers, though. No, I mean, the mainframes in the 60s, people developed Space War and other games on. It's like, in fact, really, when I started computing in the late 70s, I started programming on a Commodore PET in BASIC. And, but I was playing D&D in the late 70s, like a lot of people, and that was one of the first things I wanted to do, is be able to create dungeons and turn it to the use of games. But so that's kind of since computers came about. But I don't think it's bad. I tell you, the most advanced programming goes into the games and the simulations and all the calculus and everything else involved in doing the development of those games and game engines. It's just incredible. Oh, I have another picture. This is kind of my picture of the day. See if I can find it. Well, there's all these memes going around lately about punching Nazis. So I created this one. Okay, how am I going to do this? It won't zoom out. Okay. Oh, well, you can see most of it. Anyway, so, yeah, when I started programming in the very late 70s, punch cards were kind of on the way out, and I got to see it, but when my career really started 10 years later, by the late 80s, punch cards were pretty much gone, of course, but this is the way that it used to be done. You'd type in your programs, put them on punch cards, feed them into a punch card reader. So I said, I came here to punch cards and talk technology news, and I'm running a little low on technology news today. I made that a few days ago. Anyway, yep, that's I have a nostalgia for old computing. Of course, being that I'm an old guy, been doing this for a while. So let's get on with it. So our question of the day comes from Caleb Jackson in San Antonio, Texas, my home state. And he asks a pretty simple question: what BitTorrent client do you recommend? And my answer is pretty simple too: QBitTorrent. It falls under the GPL. It's truly free software. Unfortunately, the big ones, the BitTorrent client and uTorrent, which is really huge, they're commercial and they're starting to monetize and they're starting to run ads. In fact, I switched from uTorrent because it just got very annoying. I would set something to downloading and be in a different part of the house and suddenly start hearing blaring music or an ad because they run these video ads, and I said, oh, no way, because there wasn't a way to disable it that I could see easily, and I thought, what was the point? Because there were free alternatives. QBitTorrent does everything uTorrent does pretty much. Well, most everything you would that you would need. You know, if you look at the two, they're very similar. Anyway, it's very usable. Probably my second choice would be Deluge. It's also a GPL licensed client. If you don't know what BitTorrent is, it's peer-to-peer file sharing, and of course, famously used for downloading torrents, which kind of came after the whole LimeWire, all of that, where people were downloading illegal software, and there's some of that done with BitTorrent, downloading music and so forth. So if you're going to do that kind of thing, that's up to you. All I can recommend is that you get a browser to go along with it. Use the Tor browser. And if you don't know what the Tor browser is, it's basically a customized Firefox version that actually connects to the Tor network. And the Tor network, the Onion router, is started in probably 2002, and it was a way to obfuscate your traffic. So now it's actually used for, both of these things are used for legitimate purposes. Both the BitTorrent, because BitTorrent is being used to form grids and meshes of peer-to-peer clients for backups. There's a backup client using the BitTorrent protocol and so forth. So there's a lot of legitimate uses. There's also your lesser legitimate uses. And the same with Tor. If you don't want your traffic, if you want to try, now that's a whole other thing. And of course, who knows if the Tor network's been compromised, or to what level anyway, by the government agencies, NSA and so forth. But anyway, the whole point is to obscure your traffic, your IP traffic coming from your network, from your home. And in fact, your IP address will appear not as yourself. So like even if you want to hit a website but you don't want it to appear as your IP address, you can use the Tor client. So anyway, combining those two things, you have a good solution for nefarious purposes or legitimate purposes. But either way, yes, my recommendation would be qBittorrent. I'll put a link in the notes, but get away from uTorrent. Bad. And thanks for the question. Oh, by the way, if you want to email me a question, it's editor@computermagazine.com. You can call 408-337-2775. Get on the chat, computermagazine.com/chat. Get on the Facebook page, facebook.com/computermagazine.com. Join the group. Twitter, any of many ways. Send me your question. Send me your picture. Send me your link. Ask me technical questions. Participate. And keep geeking along, and I'll do the same. Well, hello again, my fellow geekophiles, technology-interested people, subscribers, viewers, readers. Hopefully you're a reader. And by the way, go to computermagazine.com. We work here 24/7 to bring you the top technology news on the internet, indexing technology news from across the web. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/computermagazine. And like the Facebook page, facebook.com/computermagazine.com. And join the group. And all these links will be in the show notes, in the comment of the video, as will the stories. So, thank you for watching. Please like and share these videos if you don't mind. Whether to laugh at them, make fun, or because you actually enjoyed them and found something useful. Either way, I'd appreciate it. Let's get back. So this next story comes to us from InfoWorld. FCC rolls back net neutrality, ISP transparency rules. Yeah, that didn't take long, did it? The U.S. Federal Communications Commission has voted to roll back some net neutrality regulations that require broadband providers to inform customers about their network management practices. The Republican-controlled FCC on Thursday suspended the net neutrality transparency requirements to broadband providers with fewer than 250,000 subscribers. Critics call the decision anti-consumer. Yeah, you think? The transparency rule waived for 5 years in a 2-to-1 party line vote. Thursday requires broadband providers to explain to customers their pricing models and fees, as well as their network management practices and impact on broadband service. The Commission had previously exempted ISPs with fewer than 100,000 subscribers, but Thursday's decision expands the number of ISPs not required to inform consumers. Only about 20 U.S. ISPs have more than 250,000 subscribers. The 5-year waiver may be moot. However, FCC Chairman Ajit Pai and Republicans in Congress are considering ways to scrap a large chunk of the net neutrality regulations approved by the agency just 2 years ago. Small ISPs have argued the transparency rules amount to burdensome and costly regulations, while consumer advocates have argued that broadband customers have the right to know when a provider is throttling traffic. The exemption will allow small ISPs to redirect the money they spend on compliance, Pai said. The money they spend on compliance. I'm sure it's a fortune. Oh, okay. It's depressing. I'm going to read the rest. I firmly believe that these ISPs should spend their limited capital building out better broadband to rural America, not hiring lawyers and accountants to fill out unnecessary paperwork demanded by Washington, D.C., he said. Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're going to spend the money on. Building out there and giving better service to the customer. Sure. However, the White House Office of Management and Budget under former President Barack Obama found that compliance with the transparency rules takes each broadband provider less than 7 hours a year, noted Commissioner Megan Claiborne, a Democrat. The new waiver exempts some large companies with smaller broadband subsidiaries from the transparency rules, she said. Yeah, I'm sure they'll all figure out a way to get in under that. In an ongoing quest to dismantle basic consumer protections for broadband services, the majority has decided to exempt billion-dollar public companies from being transparent with consumers, Claiborne added. This represents yet another in a series of steps being taken to jettison pro-consumer initiatives. The commission's 2 Republicans defended the change. In January, the House of Representatives passed a bill with a similar exemption in a voice vote with no dissenters, Commissioner Michael O'Reilly noted. The vote represents a sensible and soundly justifiable exemption for small internet service providers from unnecessary and expensive regulations, O'Reilly said. Yeah. I don't even know where to start with this one. Ridiculous. Insane. I don't want to offend anybody, but look, yeah, this was expected considering the way the election went, and this is not good for you as a consumer. Believe me, this is so they can throttle your traffic. They can put less money into the infrastructure, not more, and more money in their pockets, and throttle your traffic without you knowing, and many other things. So anyway, let's not get into it too much. Otherwise, we're opening a huge can of worms. We'll talk about this later, but this is bad news. So let's get on to the next story before I get overly depressed about it. Net neutrality is very important to all of us, and transparency. So for our video of the day, we are going to take a look at the new LG G6. And this comes to us from The Verge and their YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, youtube.com/computer magazine, where you will find the link to this video on their YouTube in the notes on this video, but also subscribe to them. The Verge is a great source for technology news on their website and their YouTube channel. So we're going to watch this video and check out their first look at the LG G6.
Hey everybody, this is Dieter with The Verge, and this is LG's new flagship phone. It's the G6, and what you should know about this phone is LG stopped trying to do gimmicks, and they've just made a really, really solid, good, reliable phone. The G6 is all about nailing the basics. This is a very, very straightforward, sturdy, surprisingly little phone. So the centerpiece of this phone is the 5.7-inch display, which goes very nearly edge to edge. And that's great because the thing is actually not much different in size from, say, a Pixel. It's actually a little bit smaller, yet it manages to fit a bigger screen in there. And LG's pulled that off with a couple of neat things. So you'll notice that the corners of the screen are curved. The screen itself is actually curved, and they do that to protect it so that when it hits, if you drop it, it's less likely to crack the screen because there's not a square edge right up against the edge of the bezel there. The other thing you should know about this screen is it is a 18:9 aspect ratio. It's super tall, or super wide if you will. And what that does is it enables a bunch of really clever tricks. So if you were to, say, multitask, you can actually see more of the two things on the screen because it is a much taller screen to work with. LG has also made a really neat camera app that they call Square Camera, where you take a picture on the top and it immediately shows you what you've taken a photo of on the bottom so you can see if your Instagram shot is actually lined up the way that you want, which is really clever. Other things that are really just standard and straightforward about this thing, it is waterproof. It's IP68 waterproof. It has a bunch of different kinds of Gorilla Glass actually. On the front, it's Gorilla Glass 3, which makes it pretty thin. On the back, you have Gorilla Glass 4 over the lenses, which prevents it from scratching, and then a curved Gorilla Glass 5 back. Inside, there's a 3300 milliamp battery, which is actually a little bit smaller than LG could have done, but they wanted to make this thing, again, reliable, sturdy. They say you'll get more than a day out of it. You'll also notice that the power button here is on the back, and of course there's a fingerprint sensor. And there are 2 cameras. There's a wide angle lens at 125 degrees and a standard lens at 71 degrees. And what that allows LG to do is have, you can either toggle the zoom mode here from wide angle to telephoto, or you could just zoom right in, and they say they've done a better job of not having a bounce between those scrolls. The other thing that's neat here, because they have this 18:9 screen, when you take a photo, your previews are like in a little carousel over here on the left rather than in a tiny thumbnail over there, so you can see what you're taking a picture of right away. Inside this thing in terms of specs, it's a Snapdragon 821 processor, which is not going to be probably the latest and greatest this year, but it still is a very, very good processor. It's got 4 gigs of RAM for running apps and 32 gigs of storage, and then of course there's expandable storage on the side here. So that's the LG G6. It's coming to the US, but we don't know prices or release dates or carriers yet. We do know that it's going to be available in black and platinum, but not white. The other thing to know about the US version is it's not going to have a DAC for high quality audio. Instead, what you're going to get is the 2 kinds of wireless charging on there, which apparently American consumers care more about. For much more of everything that's happening here at Mobile World Congress, you should check us out. We are The Verge. For much more about nailing the subscribe plug, there's a ton more news happening at Mobile World Congress, and if you want.
So yeah, pretty cool. I will put the link to that in the notes. Yeah, I'd rather have the DAC. Wireless charging is just not quite there yet, in my opinion. Okay, on to the next story. So this next story comes to us from BigThink.com. Price of lab-grown burger falls from $325,000 to $11.36. Lab-grown meat could be on your plate within the next 5 years. For the past few years, the barrier to getting test tube meat into the hands of consumers has been the cost of production. In 2013, it was around $325,000 to make this stuff in a lab, but the process has been refined and the cost now is just $11.36. Quote, "And I am confident that when it is offered as an alternative to meat, that increasing numbers of people will find it hard not to buy our product for ethical reasons." Peter Verge. Why do people have to have these difficult names? Or maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Verstrata. How about we go with that? Peter Verstrata, head of Masa Meat, told the BBC their plan to make a minced meat that's just as good as any you'd get from a slaughtered cow and at a competitive price. It's uncertain how the story of our food would change across various countries who use meat as a celebratory centerpiece. People love their real meat. It's hard to say if people would really give it up. Even when confronted with moral implications eating meat has on animals and our environment, people still find an excuse to defend their carnivorous indulgence. So when a comparable product comes on the market, what will we do? Verstrata is confident consumers will have no choice but to give in and purchase lab-grown meat. There may be some who go out of their way to get the, quote, real stuff, end quote, but that trend may only last so long as the prices stay competitive. But if the cost to manufacture test tube meat continues to fall and there's enough demand, science may edge out factory farms. The only question left is, what will happen to the cows once we no longer want to eat them? Well, actually, I seem to have an opinion on everything, don't I? Actually, I think this is the future. I mean, not just for ethical reasons, and I think there's definitely ethical concerns if, it's life, killing life to have meat. Then again, you're killing plants when you eat vegetables, and every time you swallow, you're killing bacteria. But okay, be that as it may, animals with brains, let's say, sufficiently developed temporal lobes, such as us cows and mammals and so forth, and even chickens. Anyway, regardless, forget the ethical questions. The fact is cows, the beef industry produces an enormous amount of pollution. People may not realize that, the methane and so forth released into the atmosphere. Now, this may not be in the next 10 years, 20 years, but eventually, if we continue to progress at our technological rates that we are, I think this is the inevitable future of meat. Synthesized meat. I mean, especially when we get to Mars and places like this. Whatever these processes are, refined, miniaturized, etc., etc., you'll have your 3D meat printer in your kitchen. So it's getting to the replicator days with 3D printers already, and they're printing skin, organs. They're starting to do and frameworks for organs, and they're starting to print food, and eventually we'll be printing meat. You'll print your pork chop off your kitchen printer, and your L grade tea, or L grade, wasn't it L grade? Yeah, Mr. Picard, Captain Picard. So I think it's the future. I do. Technology. I love you. I have confidence in you, technology, that you're going to get us there. Star Trek future. It's much better than thinking of the alternative, the very nihilistic end times, destruction of the world, death. No, Star Trek for me. Positive, happy technology. We're getting there. Well, that is all for today. And you made it through it with me, your friendly neighborhood technology geek nerd, technologist. I like to call myself a technologist. You should too if you're a technologist. If you are an experienced professional in this field, and if you are not, you are a future technologist, or you are a technology interested, we'll call you. And either way, we are done for today, so thank you for sticking around, though. But remember, join me on YouTube, youtube.com/computer magazine, facebook.com/computer magazine.com, Twitter, I'm not even going to say computer magazine, it's letter limitation, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, you get all the links are in the description. You'll find them. And the stories, too. But we're going to keep working here 24/7 to bring you all the technology news across the net, indexing the best news, the best technology news, trying to stay up on it. It's important. It's important for you to know, especially if you're a technology professional. But if you're not, it's interesting. Just consider it interesting and stay educated, and you'll know as much as your kids. But remember, all the links in the description. Like, share, please, thank you, and you know what? I'm going to see you tomorrow. I know I am, Thursday. And that will be March 2nd, 2017. This was the Digital Mashup. I'm Chris Swearingin. I'll see you tomorrow.